So hopefully you all can hear me. We'll go ahead and get started. Oops, sorry, one moment, please. Okay. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to update the community on our Idylwood-Tysons project, specifically the current status of the direct pipe work, recent challenges our team has experienced, and construction activities that still need to be completed. We'll also discuss the final phase of the project, Phase I, which consists of open trench work from the east drill pad down our right-of-way, across Shreve Road, and into Idylwood substation. At the end of the presentation, I'll provide ample time to answer any of the questions that you may have. I know some of you have already sent some questions ahead of the meeting, so we will get to those when we get to the question and answer session. So before we get too far along, I do want to mention if you are calling into the meeting from your phone, you will not be able to answer or ask us any questions. You can only do so from a computer or a tablet. So if you have a question and you have dialed in, you can certainly follow up with us after the meeting. I'll provide my contact information. But before we get started, I would like to say a few words. As a communications specialist for this project, I am responsible for helping our customers and stakeholders better understand our project scope, timeline, impact, and benefits our work has on the community and the electric grid. With most construction projects, particularly those that are underground, there can be unforeseen issues that can arise and impact our project timeline. We've done the best to meet our challenges quickly, respectfully, and in a manner that is safe for everyone involved. We know this has not been easy for you all, however. Project delays combined with the added stress of the pandemic have been tough on all of us, but especially you all because this work is occurring in your neighborhood. So for those of you who have been doing remote work, homeschooling your children, or just trying to prepare your family's meals while we drill, I would like to say thank you for your patience and thank you for your participation tonight. I know it takes time out of your evening and we appreciate it. So let's begin. So I'm going to go ahead and ask my project team members that are with me tonight to go ahead and turn on your cameras if they are not already. And I will make a few introductions. Before I introduce the project team, I would like to introduce Mark Allen, who is the Director of Electric Transmission Project Development and Execution. Mark would like to say a few words and thank you all for your attendance tonight. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Ann. Good evening. My name is Mark Allen. I'm Director of Transmission Project Development and Execution at Dominion Energy. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our updates this evening and provide important information on this project as we get your questions and feedback. When the need for this project was determined in 2017, we knew it wouldn't be easy to find the best route and construct the project. But we're happy to say that after more than 5 years of hard work to determine that best route and finalize the engineering and construction planning, we are approaching the finish line. Crews are currently on target to energize this project at the end of this year, and any project of this nature cannot be a success without the patience of our community members such as you, and we're grateful for your support thus far. I'd like to assure you that this project remains a key focus for us and our organization, and the benefits are essential to the continued growth in Northern Virginia. And with that, Ann, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mark. So I'll go ahead and first introduce John, our project manager. John is an electric transmission strategic project advisor, which is the highest level of project management here at Dominion Energy. He's worked here for more than 15 years and has more than 30 years of experience in project management, operations, management, maintenance, and engineering and design fields. John oversees large transmission and substation projects from start to finish. He's a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University with a degree in electrical engineering and is currently working on his MBA in executive leadership from JMU. Gary is a senior consultant with Geoengineers. Gary and his team have been brought onto this project, particularly to help with the shift from HDD to direct pipe. Gary has been involved with horizontal directional drilling and pipeline industries for more than 20 years. In his role at Geoengineers, he focuses on preparing feasibility studies and detailed design for HDD, direct pipe, and other types of trenchless installations. He's a graduate of Old Dominion University with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering Technology and Missouri University of Science and Technology with a Master's of Engineering in Geotechnics. And Graham in our construction group. Graham is an electric transmission construction coordinator here at Dominion Energy. In his role, he oversees construction and safety of underground projects from start to finish, ensuring they are built to proper specifications and standards. He has more than 10 years of experience in construction and is a graduate of Virginia Military Institute. And Brendan. Brendan will be helping me moderate some of the questions tonight, so thank you, Brendan, for joining us. You may be familiar with Brendan from some of our other projects in the Fairfax area. Brendan is an external affairs manager in our Northern Virginia office. He has been with Dominion Energy for more than 4 years. And as mentioned earlier, my name is Ann Gordon. I'm a communications specialist here at Dominion Energy. I've been with the company for more than 7 years. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I only have a few slides to share tonight. Our focus is really to talk about what is going on currently and what we have coming up with the project. I'd also like to let you all know how to ask questions tonight. If you have any questions throughout the project summary, I'd like to go ahead and allow you to ask the questions as we're going through the content, just to make sure that you're understanding everything. If there's a question, we'd like to address it at the same time. So if you have any questions about direct pipe, feel free to submit a question through the Q&A chat. Otherwise, we'll still allow opportunities to ask questions as we get to the Q&A session at the end of the slides. So Brendan, I'll ask you if you see some questions coming in, just let me know and we can pause and answer those. Okay. So as you all may remember, we started this phase H of the project with something called horizontal directional drilling, and we were able to complete the first of 2 paths in phase H. In May of last year, we actually had to stop with the HDD because of some issues that we had with inadvertent releases of the drilling fluid. So between about May and October of last year, we were not working on phase H of the project, which is part of the delays that we've had for this phase of work. So we resumed our work with direct pipe in October. If you were in attendance at our meeting in August of last year, we mentioned that we expected to complete the direct pipe drilling in January of 2022. Obviously, that has not happened, so we're going to talk through some of the challenges that we've had, and I will pass this over to Gary in just a second, but I did want to highlight a few things. One of those being, when we announced the completion date, we expected to begin mobilization with our new crew to start the direct pipe in September of last year. We were about a month behind getting our new contractor on board, so that was one of the major delays that we had there. But we've had some other weather issues and equipment issues, and the soil conditions have been a challenge for us. But I'll let Gary get into that. Also, just want to mention, as of last night, we are 71.6% complete with Path 2. So we are approximately here near Park Street. We started over here on the right, where the east pad is, and we're working west to the west pad. So we are getting there, but it's taken a little bit longer than we initially expected. So I will let Gary talk about some of those challenges in more detail, so you can kind of get an understanding of when we say we expect to complete the drilling by this date. If we don't reach that milestone, what are some of the circumstances that are holding us back from giving you an exact completion date? Gary?
Thank you, Ann. As Ann mentioned, we've had some challenges. The delay in mobilization date, that was also attributed to kind of a refresh we needed to do with VDOT to get some of the permits in place. That took a little longer than anticipated, but eventually we were able to get everything that VDOT needed to review this process. It's kind of a new process for them too as well. So it was kind of a learning experience, providing VDOT everything they needed to review the construction technology and the engineering and things like that, and give them a level of comfort that the proposed course of action was the best to complete this project. So in addition to the delay in the mobilization date, cold weather came upon us, and we've had some equipment issues that we've had to address. This is some very sophisticated equipment. Most of it's made in Germany, and it's shipped to the United States. And so it doesn't do real well in cold weather. It's a lot of electrical instrumentation and things like that. So basically, throughout the direct pipe installation, they're along the different sections of pipe, there are communication pieces that relay the information from the MTBM head back to the surface, where that data can be analyzed and used to chart the path to make sure it's on course, and then also to make sure that it's steering properly, and to provide those steering inputs to the MTBM machine. So even though some of those repairs are very simple in nature, and it may just be changing out one component for another, and the contractor has a very good inventory of spare parts, some of the delays associated with making those repairs are just the time to get to the bottom of the machine, or to get to that component. So within the 42-inch pipe, there's a small track, like a railroad track type apparatus, and it has a little electrically driven cart. So whenever there's a repair needed or a survey needed or anything like that, basically contractor personnel get on this cart, and they traverse the length of the pipe that's been installed thus far to get to that component, and then they make the repair, and then then they have to come back out before tunneling operations can resume. So the further we advance, the further they actually have to travel through the pipe to make these repairs. And as I mentioned earlier, it may take them 30 or 45 minutes to change out the component, but it may be an hour and 15 minutes, or hour and 30 minutes travel time just to get to that component. And then once the repair's made, another hour 15, hour 30, whatever, to get back to the surface before tunneling operations can resume. So there's an aspect of that, and then also the pipe pieces they're inserting, they're about 400 feet long. So basically what that means is they mine or tunnel for a few days, get to the end of that pipe segment, and then they have to take all the internal pieces apart, put on the next pipe segment, make a full weld, and then non-destructively test that weld to make sure that there's no flaws in the weld before tunneling can resume. And then they have to then connect the various apparatus on the back end of that pipe before tunneling operations can resume. So those, that pipe change out, as we've been calling it, usually that takes, roughly 3 days or so. So these, and with the weather that we've been having lately, it makes it a little bit longer even. So, some of these things are creating some of the issues that have kind of delayed construction a little bit. And soil conditions are another important thing to think about. As I'm sure anybody who's ever, dug a hole by hand can appreciate, if you dig in one part of your yard, it may be soft, but if you move 15 or 20 feet away, it may be hard, or you may hit a rock or something like that. So those are just kind of some of the same things that we encounter on a much larger scale with any underground installation. And although we did quite a bit of geotechnical explorations to use to design this project, we still can't get in the areas where we still can't continuously sample along the entire alignment. So we actually did, there were 4 geotechnical explorations that were done prior to the direct pipe. And then when we made the shift from HDD to direct pipe, we did 4 more. So, we have quite a bit of information, but as you understand, soils are very heterogeneous. They change. Anybody, like I said, anybody that's ever dug a hole by hand would, can appreciate that. And then, we've also lost quite a bit of time, due to the holidays. We were hopeful that we could get this thing done, before the holidays were up on us, or at least during the holidays anyway. But that obviously didn't work out. So, we've lost some time for the holidays. And the other thing that's kind of affected us too, that's actually a pretty dramatic effect, is the thrust forces have begun to increase. Thrust forces, are what we call, so as the pipe thruster clamp grips the pipe, it's pushing it into the soil. It's pushing it into the hole that the MTBM is developing. Frictional forces develop over the way the pipe drags and interacts with the soil structure that's been developed. We overcome this by inserting lubrication fluid in the annular space between the tunnel walls and the pipeline itself, or the 42-inch casing itself. Over the period of being shut down over the holidays and stuff like that, it's likely that some of that fluid, lubrication fluid, was absorbed by the formation. So now that we get, we're back to mining and we've increased, because the thrust forces started coming up, we asked to go to 7 days a week. So as we can advance the pipe more, we can regenerate some more or reinsert some more of that lubrication fluid that should help thrust forces come back, or at least stabilize, hopefully. But that's one of the reasons, that we've asked to go to 7 days a week, and just actually keeping that pipe moving as much as possible will really help with the thrust force issue. So next slide, Ann.
Yeah, and before we get to the next slide, just want to allow some time for questions if anyone wants us to talk a little bit more in depth about the direct pipe before we get to the next slide. Brendan, do you see any questions coming in?
No, Ann, not at this time. Oh, here's one. There's a question about timing of the drilling. Can we talk a little bit more about the work hours?
Yes. So either Gary or Graham, you want to talk about the work hours that we're currently working for the direct pipe?
Yeah, and Gary, I'll start. Right now, the crews are still working 7 to 7 Monday through Friday. We've had to work till 9 on several occasions, just due to conditions that maybe the extra 2 hours could help us out, for the next day setup, or maybe for a pipe change or something like that. But for now, the times are 7 to 7. Sometimes in the evening, there's potential if there's any kind of mechanical problems or anything that it could run a little past. But for the time being, we're working 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, and 9 to 7 on Saturday and Sunday.
Thanks, Graham. Okay, so we've had a few questions that have come in ahead of this meeting, just talking about what's next after we finish the direct pipe drilling. What are the remaining activities for us to finish up this project? So there's quite a bit to unravel here. So going to try to explain this in a simplified manner. And of course, we will let you know as we reach certain milestones, once we complete the drilling, what's next, how long we anticipate that to last. But I will let Graham and Gary kind of start off explaining this. But before they do that, I did want to mention that we've had some complaints about some of the vibration levels and the noise. And we have done an investigation with a company that has come in to look at what's causing the vibrations and what the levels are. They have determined that there is a piece of equipment called the mud shaker that is used for the direct pipe installation. Once we finish the drilling, we will no longer need the shakers. So that vibration should be no longer once we finish that. So that's a good thing for everyone. So we're looking forward to finishing up the drilling piece of the project. Again, we're about 71% complete, but I will pass this over to Gary to talk about what happens once the pipe reaches the west pad. Where do we go from there?
Okay, thanks, Ann. So once we get the direct pipe across and break ground, we can remove the microtunnel bore machine, and then all the components inside the casing. That's the communication cables, the mud lines and things like that. Once we remove all that equipment, a rig will be put on, an HDD rig will be put on the west pad, and we will flood the 42-inch casing with drilling fluid. We will then pull in the 36-inch HDPE from the east to the west. Once the 36-inch HDPE is inserted within the 42-inch casing, we will then extract the 42-inch pipe over the 36-inch, leaving the 36-inch in. That will eventually be the conduit in which the bundles will be. That'll be the casing in which the conduit bundles will be eventually installed. The direct pipe contractor will then demobilize all their equipment. A new contractor will come in, and they will pull in the conduit bundles inside the 36-inch HDPE casing. And once the conduit bundles are in, they'll do the grouting operation, the thermal grouting operation. And Graham, I'll turn it over to you to describe the activities after that.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, so when the contractors are off site, the electrical contractor and civil contractors who have been doing the installation on the other portions of the project will come back, and they will be installing the open trench portion down the right-of-way road towards Shreve Road and into Idylwood substation. We'll see some more of this on the next slide, but just a note on this portion of the project, the depths are obviously a lot shallower. There's less unknown, and it's more controlled environment. It's a mechanically excavated open trench, and our crews are very proficient at doing this. We've already installed over 15,000 feet of open trench in this manner on this project to date so far. And then they'll pull in the cable when it's done. And AG, next slide, please.
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Are we good to go, or do we have any questions about these activities?
Yeah, guys, let's hold here just for a second. We're getting a couple questions, and I think we're going to get to this in just a moment, about when we anticipate to be entirely finished with the drilling. And then if we could just revisit why we needed to extend some of the working hours. We're also getting a couple questions about that, and whether or not that was something that we anticipated or not.
I'll take this is Gary, and I apologize. I should have mentioned it earlier. My camera is not working. It's not communicating with WebEx for whatever reason, so I can't share my camera. But basically, we thought that we could work 6 days a week. You know, there have been multiple direct pipes that we've been installed with where 6-day work weeks were sufficient. A lot of it has to do with the delays over, you know, taking Thanksgiving holiday off, taking the time off around Christmas. The pipe sat static for a considerable amount of time during those off periods. Ordinarily, you would keep the pipe advancing 6 days a week, at least, and preferably 7, to keep lubrication fluid in the annular space and to prevent the formation, you know, replenishing that lubrication fluid if it's being degraded by groundwater or if it's being absorbed by the dry portions of the formation. So there's a couple things there. You know, the engineering team was confident, and the contractor was also confident that 6 days a week would be sufficient. And it probably would have been fine if it weren't for the holidays, if it weren't for the pipe setting static for extended periods of time around Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, and you know, the path forward is now, since the thrust forces are kind of climbing at a sort of concerning rate. You know, we feel like it's the best course of action just to keep the pipe moving and to continuously replenish that lubrication fluid as much as possible. And I'll also note too, you know, there are times when the pipe is static just during the pipe change or during equipment repairs and things like that. So that also affects how fast that lubrication fluid is absorbed or can be replenished. So I hope that answers the question about the work days.
Brendan, any others we should address before we move on? I see quite a few coming through. I don't know if it'd be easier to get through our last, I think we have one more slide, and then we can go through all the questions.
Yep, go ahead. And I think we're going to cover the other timing component when we expect to be finished here momentarily. So we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay. So the final phase of work is what we're calling phase I. So we have phases A through I, which start at our Tyson substation, working all the way to Idylwood substation. So we are on schedule with our trenching portion, and really the one piece of the project that has had the delays has been this phase H, where we've done the HED and the direct pipe. But once we finish up with the direct pipe, we will still need to trench the remaining section into the Idylwood substation. So we are expecting this will begin in the summer, just being mindful that we can't start everything until some of the equipment is off-site for the direct pipe work, but we can start certain activities earlier. So we're going to do our best to start that work as early as we can and finish up as early as we can. But we're going to have to keep you all updated on what the progress is looking like for this phase. As Graham mentioned, this is something that's a little bit more predictable. We have a lot of experience with open trenching, and we've been on schedule with this piece for the rest of the project. So we feel pretty good about it. We have about 900 feet or a little bit more between the drill site area and the substation. So essentially we will trench down the right of way, we'll cross Shreve Road and into the substation. So you all probably are wondering, how are we going to communicate the crossing of Shreve Road? That's something we'll have to give you advance notice on. We're trying to work around the school schedule so that we're not performing this work while kids are in school and impacting any high traffic times. So we will work with you all on that. So once we install the duct bank by trenching down the right of way, we will then go back and backfill the duct bank with thermal concrete, and eventually we will pull the cable in. Once all of our equipment is off site, then we can begin restoring the right of way. So that means removing all the equipment and replacing the installed access roads, replanting the grass. All of that stuff I know takes time, so we want to start that as early as we can, but we cannot do so until we are out of the area for that to properly restore to its pre-existing condition. So Graham and Gary, if there's anything else that you'd like to add about the open trenching, now would be the time.
And I would just add, this is more normal construction activity. We won't have the drilling machine set up with the vibrations and the noises going on during this time. So it's going to be more typical construction equipment sounds that they'd be experiencing, and not the constant vibration and noise that you're seeing from the shakers and the drilling machines.
Thanks, Graham. So now we want to get to all of your questions. Brendan, is there one in particular you want to start off with?
Yeah, why don't we start with the question about any of the work that was done up front to address some of the concerns with the vibrations?
Yep, so I can start with that, and John, if you want to add on anything, feel free. So back in 2020, we brought on a company called MPR Associates to do a review and analysis of our equipment and the vibrations that some of our neighbors were experiencing while we were performing the HDD work. And most importantly, we wanted to figure out what the equipment was that was causing the vibrations, but also make sure that these levels were not causing any damage to homes in the nearby area. So MPR completed this report back early 2021. There's actually a recording of the findings on our website, dominionenergy.com/Tysons. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit about what they were looking into, I suggest looking at that report. But essentially what their findings were is they mentioned the mud shakers are causing the majority of the vibrations, and that's something that's essential to both HDD operations and direct pipe. So a few more weeks, hopefully we'll be finished up with the direct pipe and we can get the shakers off site. The levels are a level that is perceptible to neighbors, but not anything that they believe could cause any damage to any homes. So it is definitely an annoyance to the community, and we appreciate your patience, and we're trying to finish up as quickly as we can so that we can get these shakers off site.
And I'll just add, this is Greg Matthey. Also, there is a claim process, so there is follow-up. If you do believe that there is a claim warranted for this, we will come out and review that claim request. So there's that report. There's ongoing monitoring, and we do have a claim process.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Ann. We did have a follow-up question here on the work hours. We talked a little bit about why we needed to do the additional days. This question is specifically asking, since we are already doing the additional days, why is it necessary for working hours until 9 p.m.?
I'll take
This is
it.
Gary. I can take.
Go ahead.
Graham. Go ahead.
I was
just going to say.
Go ahead, Gary.
Okay. There's a couple, the couple reasons. The primary reason is the more we can advance that pipe on any given day, the better off we're going to be to complete this thing in a timely fashion. The cold weather is upon us. We use fluid. We use water to make drilling fluid. We use drilling fluid to pump down to remove the cuttings and also for the lubrication fluid. So as a result of the cold weather, we have the contractor crews have to stop a little earlier every day to winterize all their equipment so that they can use it again the next day. And then it takes a little while longer every morning to get going, to get all the equipment fired up and warmed up and to de-winterize, reconnect hoses and things like that. So the simple answer is the more hours we can work, the more we can advance that pipe, even if it's only 15 feet a day more. It adds up very quickly. So, I completely understand, why you wouldn't want us working out there, and the long and short of it is the more we work every day, the quicker we're going to be done. And Graham, I don't know if you had anything else you'd like to add to that.
No, that was a great answer. Thank you.
I would also just like to chime in. I sent a message earlier to several residents about 2 days this week where we would need to work a little bit later. We did not receive enough footage that we were hoping to receive over the weekend. I think it was a equipment issue. So to make up for that loss and keep us on schedule, we really wanted to move that forward and get a few extra working hours. As Gary mentioned a few slides back, if we have an issue where we need to go investigate the pipe, it could take an entire work day where we actually aren't drilling. So we're trying to balance, working in the community with just finishing this portion up. We know that this is frustrating for you all. So smaller sacrifices like working an extra hour or two could help us from losing extra days if we aren't able to drill on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Thanks, Ann. We have a few questions here about the overall need for the project and benefit to customers. If we could touch on that. And then also there's a few items here referencing just the overall project timeline, if we could speak to that as well.
I'm sorry, Brennan, what was that first question?
The overall project need and the benefit to customers, how we got here.
Yeah, that is we have a lot of information on that on our website, so I don't want to take up too much time because I see several other questions that are specific to this work, but this is a reliability improvement for the growing Northern Virginia area. So there is a big process involved in planning and routing. All of these things were not solely decided by Dominion, that has input from localities, and ultimately the Virginia State Corporation Commission who approved the route. That information is all available on our website. There's links to the SEC final order and our applications. If you have any questions about that process, I'll leave my email address at the end for anyone to contact me.
Hey, AJ, can I just jump in quickly?
Yeah.
Sure. So on the project need, I know it's a little bit of a complicated thing to understand, but electric transmission lines benefit us all. And we have to maintain certain thresholds and loading on substations and lines. And when those are anticipated to grow above those thresholds, that's when some projects are born. And this project is to maintain those reliability thresholds. The reason why those thresholds are in place, because if something were to happen, we need to make sure that there's contingency planning so that the general public don't see any of those interruptions if something was to go out. And so keeping those thresholds in place, keeping the reliability enhanced on the electric transmission side will help and does help the reliability from the distribution side of the grid, and ultimately the light staying on in people's homes. We are not in a business to take risks when it comes to reliability. We want to make sure that we're ahead of those issues and that we're warding off those issues become actual problems. And this project is for that reason, which enables all of us to have reliable power. So there is a benefit. We understand that through construction there are impacts. We're not dismissing that at all, but this project will have broad benefit to us all.
Thank you, Greg.
There's also a question here about hold on just a moment. Are there any plans to use this new pipeline to bury the other existing overhead power lines?
I will answer that. I believe the answer is no. This is just for this new transmission line. The other line is remaining.
Great. And then there's a question here about a gap in a sound wall behind the drainage pond and Avon houses. Could we speak to some of the sound walls, whether or not they're ours, and we have any knowledge about that?
I'll take that question. We put up the sound walls in basically all the locations that we could. There's some locations either due to equipment, overhead lines, guy wires, certain situations that we could not fill in every gap, but we did our best to expand that sound wall as much as we could to cover up all the noise, and especially for the loud equipment. But there are some areas that, due to obstructions, we could not get the actual blankets or walls to set in those places.
Thank you. And then we have another question about the status of the sound wall around the substation. Could we talk about that?
We're going to focus on the line project. The substation will need to address separately as we have updates on what's to come in the next few months. But I did see a question come through about the crossing of Shreve Road. The timeline for that, I don't have an exact date. We expect that will be sometime this summer. We're going to have to coordinate it with the community and see when would be an opportune time to take care of that. We think it would be, Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, a few days to get that work completed across Shreve Road by utilizing lane closures instead of closing the whole road off at once, so it can still be used.
That's correct, Dan. We'll be using partial lane closures to keep traffic moving at all times.
Thanks, guys. And then, Ann, could you talk about the various means of communication that we're using to get in touch with neighbors, and then also for them to share their comments and concerns with us as well? There's some comments on here about improving communications.
Yeah, of course. And it's a timely question, as we have just lost our community liaison, Dylan, who I'm sure many of you have gotten to know over the past few months. He was local to the area, but as he has left, I'm regaining communications lead on this project. So My commitment is to updating our website as we have milestone updates. We have a new project portal that has been updated with the latest percentages. I have an email list with most of you all, but can certainly add anyone else that wants to be part of that. On Fridays, I've been updating you all on the percentages that we've reached with our drilling. So I'll continue to do that. If you want more information, I'm happy to tailor it to what the community is looking for. But other than that, I will remain open to hearing any of your questions and responding to you in a timely manner.
Great, thank you, Ann. Looks like there were some challenges with the link that Greg sent, so we'll work on getting that information out as well on the vibration study that we mentioned as being online.
Yeah, that's a really great resource to go back and just see what we took into consideration and what MPR looked at when they were reviewing our equipment and the levels that our equipment was providing, whether that's airborne or groundborne. They have a lot of great information and references to what other noise levels or vibration levels would be. And so feel free to take a look at that at any time. We'll make sure that everyone has that link after the meeting. Also, I'm always available to answer any other questions you all have dedicated to this project and helping you all understand what's next in the project as we get to the finish line.
Thank you, Ann. I do see another question here, just clarification on whether or not our goal is to complete the drilling portion by the end of February.
Well, that is our goal. I think as Gary mentioned, there are challenges that we don't necessarily foresee. It just depends on each day. We get a certain footage, so we may only reach 30 feet per day, or we may get closer to 100. And a lot of that depends on the quality of soil, if we're going through clay or if we're going through rock. As we approach the west pad, we expect that the soil will be easier to drill through, so we should receive higher footages. But if something comes up, or if we have an equipment failure or something of that sort, and we need to take a day or two to go in and look at it, then we might not be able to finish up by February. But what we can do is let you all know what our status is every week, and let you know if there are any major challenges that may prevent us from meeting that goal. So now, yes, we are trying to finish up by the end of February, but we cannot necessarily guarantee that date. But I do want to assure you all that even if we cannot meet that date, it does not necessarily mean that we have challenges finishing the project. It's just the speed at which we can finish the project. So our goal is to finish it as quickly as we can, but making sure that we're doing it the right way. And we will keep you updated as we continue.
Thank you, Ann. The questions have slowed down here for a moment. Maybe we just give it a few minutes here to see if there's any other items we need to address. And Ann, do you want to share your email for folks in case they haven't been able to see that information already, if they're not already in part of the some of the chains that we have going through the community? And there's a question here about whether or not it's possible to coordinate a site tour or some type of a site visit
Yes, that is possible. However, we cannot coordinate a site visit while we're drilling. So we will have to find a time when we are finished with the drilling, but before we pull in the cables. So happy to coordinate that with the community, see what days may work. We'll probably have to do multiple groups so that we can access the site safely. But yes, we can coordinate that. I've had one property owner reach out to me. I can coordinate with that property owner on see who's interested and see what dates may work.
Thank you, Ann. Give us just a few more minutes.
Since the questions are slowing down, I know we had a few that had come in previously, so I would like to address a few of those now. I know one was a question that would be best for Gary to elaborate on a little bit. But Gary, could you talk a little bit about the uniqueness of this project? Has this been done before, and is this a new type of construction method? We do as a company have in this area have had some changes with the schedule. So just talking about how this is different from the facility on Shreve Road and how we expect to complete this by the end of the year.
Okay. So as it relates to direct pipe is somewhat new technology. It was developed in Europe. It's been around for 12, 15 years or so. Over the last 8 or 10 years, it's made its way to North America, and it's routinely used in United States and Canada, and I think there's been a few done even in Mexico. It's, as far as I know, this is we typically get involved with a direct pipe project of this nature for a natural gas client or like a petroleum type pipeline, a natural gas or petroleum or products type pipeline. This is the first time that I know of that it's been used for an electrical application. But the simple, the only change is rather than ordinarily for a natural gas or a petroleum or products installation, you would put in the 42-inch or whatever size pipe you needed, and then leave that in place and connect that up to the pipeline. The only difference for this project is we have to install the 36-inch HDPE inside the 42-inch and pull the 42-inch out. And the main reason for that is the carbon steel, it affects the electrical delivery characteristics. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I can't really tell you all that. That's the reason why we had to pull the 42-inch out. So while it's kind of new to this industry, it's a proven technology that's been around for a while. We have been involved with these several direct pipe installations in the United States. In fact, I designed one last year for a client in Pennsylvania. Looked at one overseas earlier this year. So it's a newer technology relative to HDD, but it's definitely a proven technology, and it's not any newer than some of the other things that are that contractors are trying to do. So does that answer your question, Ann? Is there anything else more that you'd like me to elaborate on?
I think that was good, Gary. I see one other question. Will this site be used for improvements to the substation? This will not be a equipment site storage area for the substation project. So when we finish this project, we will restore the area.
Thanks, Ann. And we have a question here about project cost. Greg, do you want to touch on how the company estimates those project costs and the role that our regulator plays in reviewing those costs?
Sure. Yes. So costs are all estimates, and we have to put that forward to the State Corporation Commission. As Gordon mentioned, that's the entity that reviews and approves and really dictates the project. I just want to be mindful that a lot of those costs are all estimates. Of course, we've talked a lot about the unpredictability of underground construction. A lot of the HDD paths went through fine. but this last path has been challenging. We do know that those challenges, and we've been upfront with the State Corporation Commission of some of the increased costs associated with that. I've seen some other questions in the chat around trying to save money, doing the increased work hours or prolonging the construction timeline. And this project is not about doing things cheaply or is trying to save money or doing things in an expensive way. We want to make sure that it's done safely. We want to make sure that it's done swiftly. But overall, we want to make sure that it's completed and done right to meet the needs and our obligations to the public as a public utility. We want to make sure that the reliability is to our standards and the construction is to our safety standards as well. And so, you know, the prolonged work hours or the days of the week in which we're working or the extended timeline is all because the anticipated issues are taking longer to resolve, whether that's because of change out in equipment or because of the holidays or because of crews getting COVID and needing to make sure that folks are quarantined and appropriately healthy to return to work. All these are being anticipated. It just takes time to even resolve those issues. The best laid plans do sometimes go askew, but as we've seen across this project, whether it's through the communications or through the construction folks, we are trying to be communicative and trying to resolve things in a swift manner. I do want to mention that, and I saw some questions come in before this meeting around lessons learned. And I would say one of the big lessons learned is that we are trying to accommodate your questions. And with that comes some things that we did on the timeline to make sure that we were certain and giving you a more accurate and timely answer to that sort of question. And that is why we are pretty firm with the initial timeline of being done with direct pipe operations by the end of January. I would say that we didn't give ourselves enough of a window of leeway, and we probably set expectations a little bit too high to sometimes meet those challenges, even though we were going through the winter time period. So a lesson learned for me and my team is that although we want to answer your questions, we do have to make sure that we're understanding that construction variability happens and that we need to set the appropriate expectations for you all. And so again, it's about setting expectations. We are here for your questions. We understand that you are very concerned, you are fed up and frustrated, and we are trying to work through that so that we can complete this project in a manner that's swift and safe, and so that it can be completed in a timely manner. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And just a couple questions rolling in. And do you want to just share again where this information is available online? There's some questions about how folks can receive project information if they aren't able to attend this meeting.
Yeah, of course. So we are recording this. It will be up on the website. Give us a day or so to get that up, and it will be available for you to review if you'd like or pass along to your neighbors. We'll also be continuing to provide updates by email. So everyone that has attended this meeting, I have your email login. I will send you my contact information, and I will review the questions that have gone through. If I need to follow up with you on anything else, then I will. Just give me a day or so to get that information and continue to work with you. So if we missed a question of yours tonight, I will review it. And I think most of you all have my email address, but if not, I will reach out as a follow-up so everyone knows how to get in touch with our team.
Thank you, Ann. And again, the questions are slowing down here. So I don't know if we want to go through and if there are any more questions that we received over email that we want to address, or if there are any last thoughts that folks want to give.
Yeah, I actually had one more that I thought we should address on the call. It's an update on when we'll be out of the area that we're currently using between Shreve Road and Virginia Lane. We have a lot of vehicles that are coming through the right of way, and especially with the evening hours, they are seeing some light that's coming from the vehicles. So is there something that we can do from the construction side to minimize the vehicle lights? I know, each day we're getting a little bit more daylight, but still, already the sun is set, and that can be a real pain for neighbors that are dealing with lights going through their windows.
Yeah, we can make a conscientious effort to make sure that we're keeping the headlights off. There is some lighting that is needed just for, safety aspect on the job, but some of the vehicle, construction vehicle lights, we can make a good effort to relay to the crews to make sure to please have the lights off during the dark hours.
Thank you, Graham. I think that's it for me. So as I mentioned, I will follow up with anyone if there's something that we missed, and also happy to coordinate some type of site tour for those who are interested when we get closer to finishing up the drilling. All right, well, Brendan, if we're good to go, then we'll go ahead and conclude tonight's meeting. We're right at an hour. So want to thank you all for your time. This is not a closed door for communication, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have any concerns or questions beyond tonight. But we appreciate your time. We thank you for your patience again, and we're trying our best to get this project wrapped up so we can get out of the way. So thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.